So what is up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel once again. You know I appreciate having you here. Stick around for today's video. It's all about this. I call this bike the Dark Lord. I've currently done 11,738 miles on this, and I want to give you guys an update, an owner's review of what it's been like owning this bike over the past, I think it's 18 months, maybe a little bit more. I want to give you the good stuff, the bad stuff, why I bought the bike, and if I'm going to progress to the new 2024 Africatwin Adventure Sports. I'll tell you why I bought the bike and go over some of the things I've done to the bike, some of the modifications and some of the things I've kind of become accustomed to that I didn't like in the first place, but now I kind of like. If that makes any sense whatsoever. If it does, stick around for this one. If it doesn't, stick around for this one. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to have a little walk round of the bike. I'm going to find a spot where we can have a little bit of a glance at all the stuff I've done to it, the modifications, go through some of those, and also point out some of the stuff I don't like, some of the stuff I do like. Basically give you a little look round. That's what I'm trying to get at. But in the meantime, I'm just going to ride these little country lanes, chill out, cruise. It's a cold, crisp day. 2 degrees it's got on the clock here. I've got the heated grips on. I've got all my gear on, the winter stuff. I'm nice and toasty. It's actually nice, it's refreshing. Roads are a little bit greasy, so you've got to be careful. You've still got those autumn leaves hanging around. Before we get into the walk round, I bloody love the way this bike handles. It suits my riding style. I really, really like it. Now, you don't ride it like I was going to say a normal bike then. It is a normal bike, but you don't ride it like a road bike. You tend to ride it a little bit more off-roady, whereas you tip over the top like that rather than hang over the side and drag it down, if that makes any sense. Well, that's how I ride anyway, and it kind of suits me. I'm quite tall, I'm 6'2", nearly 17 stone. Wide in the shoulder, long in the legs. If you watch my reviews, you know I go through that all the time. But that's the way I like to ride. And this is why I like the Africatwin as well. Imagine coming down here on a Fireblade. Where was I? Yeah, the handling. Okay, it doesn't handle as sharp as 17-inch front wheel or a 19-inch front wheel. We'll come back to that in a minute. But I've never had a problem with a 21-inch front wheel. Never. It handles perfectly well. You can throw it around, you can have fun, but then when you get to the off-road bits, it handles it beautifully. Gosh, it's very muddy. The whole frontal area is quite big on this bike, and that's one of the things I like about it. I'll go through it when I do the walk around, but I just want to say, while we're on the move, it does a great job of keeping all the elements and the rubbish weather off of you. The screen's adjustable. A little bit annoying, but you can do it on the fly if you've got cruise control on, but you have to take both hands off the handlebars to do it, so not advisable. It can be done, you get your technique down, but I'd prefer a more simple system. Why do I sing when I panic? I hit the back brake then, it started sliding into the little gutter bit. Right, I will say before I do the walk round, there's going to be one thing I point out, and I'll do that straight away, that's going to annoy some of you people out there. It's going to be a big thing that's going to really, really wind you up. I will point that out as soon as I get off and have a look at the bike. But I'm just warning you now, be prepared. Some of you may be triggered. Let's go and have a look, see if there's any spaces down here where we can have a little bit of a walk round. Oh, it's off-road, stand up. A little bit of wheel spin. Right, here it is in all its glory, the Dark Lord, the Honda Africatwin CRF 1100L Adventure Sport DCT. Now, the thing that was going to trigger you, and I'm saying this now, it's dirty. I know that triggers some people with bikes. It's dirty. I ride it all winter. I ride it off-road. Actually, it's not too bad at the moment. It's not as bad as I thought it was. but it is a little bit dirty, so when I show you around, don't be triggered. This is what bikes are supposed to look like, especially adventure bikes. They should look dirtier than this. If they're cleaner than this, you're doing something wrong. Get your adventure bike, put knobby tyres on it, and go and do some off-roading. That's what they're built for. Well, they are if they've got a 21-inch front wheel. Anything below that, 50-50, do what you want. But if you've got a 21-inch front wheel and it doesn't go off-road, you need a little slap round the back of the head. Go and do it. It's good fun. Unless you've got to pick it up, then it's not good fun, especially the Africatwin, because it's quite top heavy. Right, so let's quickly run through some of the things I've done to it. Some are obvious and some are not obvious. Well, they're all obvious really, because they're visuals. I haven't done anything to the internals or suspension or anything like that. So yeah, they're pretty obvious. Right, let's run through. Let's go front to back. Right, I've got the crash bars on here, which are Touratech, and I've also got the lower bars on here, which are Touratech as well. I've got Denali spotlights. Now I run these on all the time, but I've got them angled quite low, so they only light up to about here, and that just gives you a bigger triangle on the front. It makes you more visual, especially around London. Now I had them on when I did the bike safe course, and the police said it was okay. As long as you're not blinding people, they're fine. Some people will still get annoyed because they see lights and they just put 2 and 2 together and come up with 27, but they're perfectly legal, and I run them on all the time, and they look pretty good as well. There you go. So if you're in a car, you're about this height, not blinding, but they will blind you if you sit down here. So if you're sitting on the floor here, I understand if you flash me and you get annoyed, but if you're in a car and you're at the right distance, they don't disturb you at all. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So that's the Denali spotlights, Touratech crash bars, Touratech lower bar. Right, going down here, we've changed the tyres. I've got Dunlop Trail Max Raids on these. It's still the original front one that I got back in June, but I'm on my second rear. That lasted about 3,500 miles. It had more on it. I just wanted a beefier one for winter when it gets a little bit more slippery like this. Gives you a little bit more bite. So we've changed the tyres, got rid of the original ones, then I went for Avon, I forget whether they're Trek Riders or something like that, Trail Riders. I'll put that on the screen now. Went for those, they were really good, and they took me across the mountains in the Picos and all the tarmac leading up to that. They were really good, and then Dunlop suggested these to me. I tried them out, loved them. These are my favourite tyres by a mile on this bike. Moving back here, we've got the fuel exhaust can. They sent me that. That sounds absolutely fantastic. A beautiful piece of kit. It looks even better when it's clean. But as I said, I ride the bike, so it's going to get a little bit dirty. There's a nice little touch here. It says Africatwin on the hanger there. I don't know if you can see that, but it says, yeah, Africatwin there. If you can't see it, take my word for it. There's no one around, so let's give you a little bit of a listen. If you do watch my videos, you'll be able to hear it in most videos anyway, because it sounds absolutely fantastic. Right, moving to the back, you may have noticed these little hangers here. There's 2 there, there's 1 there, and there's 1 there. This is for the SW Motec rack that clips on. It's only half a click that goes in, and it's a quick release system. It's really good. So when you get to your destination or you don't need it, screwdriver, poke it in, half a turn, and it all comes off. Brilliant system. I'll put something on the screen now with it fully loaded, because I run the SW Motec rack with a Krieger plate on it and the Krieger bags. So I'll put a picture up now of what it looks like fully loaded when I go out and about and do my trips. So that sits on there, and that is a highly recommended system. I do like it. Up the front here, SW Motec tank bag. At the back here, Jivy Trekker box with the Jivy plate on there. That's about it, I think, for the bits I've added to it. I've also added this little screen thing up here, because I'll come to that in a minute, why I've got that on there. And I've also put these wind deflectors on here. If you can see these, they just angle the wind a little bit more off your shoulders. On the whole, this bike does a really good job of keeping all the crap and rubbish off of you, especially in bad weather. As I said, I've done 11,000 miles on this, or just over 11,000 miles, coming up to 12,000 miles. And so far, I've loved every second of it. I love this bike, but there are a few negatives. Now, they were negatives when I bought it, and I've kind of got used to it. I would still like them a little bit better, and I was hoping the 2024 edition of the Africatwin Adventure Sport would be better than this, but it's not. Not for me anyway. It might be for other people, but not for me, and I'll tell you why now. The seat is too low for me. When I bought it, it was too low. The original Adventure Sport before this one had a higher seat on that, and that was perfect. It also had a higher screen on it, and it was perfect. But for this model, they made it shorter. They made the seat shorter and the screen shorter, and they're both too short for me. That's why I've got this on. Otherwise I'd have to buy an extendable screen, or a taller screen I should say, and I'd have to pay extra for the higher seat. Now if you put the higher seat on, that's fine, but then I've got to get bar risers to make these higher, because I did that on my last Africatwin, the red and black one, the standard one. It wasn't an adventure sport, it was the standard DCT. I put the higher seat on it, then I found I had to put the bar risers on it to make the bars ergonomically better for me. So I'm sick of paying for high seats and other stuff, so I've gone with the standard. I did run a little Climb air seat on there for a bit until that burst. I've kind of got used to it. I'm still not 100% liking of it. I'd like it taller, and I was hoping the new Africatwin 2024 would address that, but they've gone shorter. It's gone another 15 millimeters lower on that. It's got a 19-inch front wheel. I mean, ridiculous. It's an Africatwin, 19-inch front wheel on an Africatwin. Craziness. So that was some of the negatives, and the adjustable screen. It's a little bit fiddly. There could be a bit of system on there, but it's not too bad. You get used to that. I say most of the negatives are to do with the size of it. Although it's a big bike, my CRF 250 Rally, I have sorted the suspension out on that. It's actually got a taller seat height than this, and it is a better ergonomically for me sitting on it. My legs are still bent from the seat to the ground on this, but this is nitpicking. This is as low as I'd like to go on an adventure bike. If it goes any lower than this, I'm not interested. So first world problems, I might have to keep this one forever. And that's really it for the negatives. The tyres it came with, the original tyres, I can't remember what they were bloody awful, so I got rid of those pretty quick. So apart from that, and the fact that everything's expensive to buy for a bike, like all the accessories, like the crash bars, the lights, these little bits here, tank bags, boxes, it's all expensive. I can't really moan too much about this bike, as much as I'd like to. Well, I wouldn't like to. It's actually probably the perfect bike for me. So you can tell I kind of like it. So let's go through the reason why I swapped the standard one for this, and why I like this one so much. Right, the standard one was great, brilliant, loved it, but there's a few things that were missing for me that I wanted on my Africatwin. First of all, I wanted tubeless tyres. Now the 2024 standard comes with tubeless tyres, so that's addressed. But when I bought this, the standard one had tubed tyres only, and I've had two with tube tyres, and they make me paranoid. I've never had a puncture, but they made me paranoid, so I went for the tubeless. I also wanted a bigger tank, because I don't like stopping at petrol stations. I like to keep going, so 300 miles to a tank, there or thereabouts, is great for me. I love it. Plus, because it's a bigger front end, it gives me more protection in the wind, and being a bigger lad, you need that. I also wanted the adjustable screen, although this is not high enough. Honda, come on, sort your lives out. It's good because in the summer and when you're off-road, you drop it right down to its lowest position, which is, see, I told you it's fiddly, which is that. So that's the lowest position. And then when it's really bad weather, you just knock it up to the highest position, and it keeps most of the crap off of you. I quite often, even in winter, ride with the visor open. Another reason I really like the Adventure Sport over the standard is cornering lights. Again, I live out sort of like in the country, not too far in the country, but most of the roads back from where I go to work are not lit. They're pitch black country, slippery, dodgy lanes. So when you lean over and this lights up the grass verge and the side, it just gives you extra vision. I never knew how much I would like them until I got them, and now I don't think I could live without these. They're bloody brilliant. The engine, the DCT, I absolutely love this. It's a little bit clunky when it's cold, especially in winter. It's been like 0, -1 over the past week, and I've noticed it's a little bit clunky after 11,000, 12,000 miles this winter. It wasn't so bad last winter, but this winter it seems a little bit clunky until the temperature goes up to about midway. Once it's warmed up, it's fine, so just take it easy off the bat if you're going out. It's a really good system. It takes about 6 months, I'd say, to get used to it. This is my second DCT bike. I had the standard with the DCT, but as I said, now you can only get it DCT with the electronic suspension, and on the 2024 model, even on the standard, if you specify DCT, you have to pay for the electronic suspension, which I think is a basic no-no. I don't need it, because all I do is, I'm going off-road, twiddle that a little bit. The front I've set up, I did that when I first got it. I never change that. It makes no difference, road or off-road. That is all compliant and lovely. It's just that back, I adjust the preload a little bit. That's all I do for off-road, and maybe drop the pressures slightly in the tyres, but nothing more than that, and it hasn't let me down or stepped out of line at all in the time I've owned it. If you watch my videos, you'd have seen this green lane in, you'd have seen it across the mountains in Picos off-road. But we're at 4,900 feet at the moment. It's like a big dual sport bike more than an adventure bike, if that makes sense. It's designed to go road, off-road, and that's what I love about the Africatwin. I love it. This 21-inch front wheel, oh, say goodbye to it. Bye-bye. This is the last model that was actually an off-road model. Although you can do off-road on 19, we all know that. Is it as good? We all know it's not as good off-road. That's a fact. It's just the way it is. And I'm not a riding god, so I need all the help I can get, and that helps me out. Brake pad wise, I've only changed the brake pads on the rear. When they did the tyre, they noticed they were a little bit low, so I changed the rear brake pads. I haven't done the front. They've probably got a third left. They're not too bad. And it's more to do with where I ride. Round in the Surrey Hills, and where I ride, it's quite sandy off-road, so they're known to annihilate your brakes and brake discs. On my CRF 250, I've done 5,000 miles on that, I think, and I'm on my, I think it's 5th set of rear pads on that. So there you go, that's how abrasive it is on these kind of roads. Right, mode wise and how I use the DCT off-road, I obviously use off-road. I put it in manual for the gear changes and use the flappy paddles. Sometimes I use the gravel mode if it's not pure slush and it's a little bit of basically gravel, like a lane like this, a little bit of off-road here. I use a gravel for that. You've got urban, I use that if it's a little bit slippery and I'm on a road ride, it just dumbs down the power a little bit. I've got the traction control up and the engine braking up, but it just eases off the power a little bit. But most of the time I run it in Tour with this full, I think it's called the gold screen, that gives you all the information you need. And then I run the gearbox in Sport 2. I never use drive. If you've never ridden one of these bikes before and you put it in drive and you ride around in drive, you will think it's absolutely pants. And it is in drive. The only time I use drive is when I'm on vapors and I'm running out of petrol, because it's the most fuel efficient. But 99.99% of the time, Sport 2, that's good enough for me, and that leaves me Sport 3 as a surprise, and it gives me an extra little bit of boost and a smile to my face when I need it. Talking about the 2024 version as well, I was hoping they'd change the screen. This screen's been on this one and the model I had before, so it's looking a little bit dated now. It's a very, very good system, but I would like to see it a little bit more customizable and a little bit more updated. Oh, on this one as well, I've got the heated grips. I think they come as standard on this, which is controlled by this little function button here. So that's my heated grips there on 4. It's a cold day. Oh, they're bloody nice. You've got your USB inlet there, so you put your phone charger into there, and then you've got Apple CarPlay up on here, and you've also got a 12-volt outlet here. Again, a little bit of a negative and an annoyance is you connect your phone here for the Apple CarPlay and all your maps on your screen here, but there's nowhere to put your phone, so you have to strap it to the bars or put it in a tank bag. I just throw mine in there and run the wire out. Again, nitpicking, a little bit annoying. You get used to it, but it'd be nice to see some kind of cubby hole somewhere you can just stash your phone and then wire it up to the bike. That would be nice. Right, let's go through some of the things that have gone wrong since I've owned it. You ready for this? It's a list, I tell you. It's a bloody long list. No, I'm lying. It's a Honda. Nothing. Nada. Not a single thing has gone wrong with this bike. I'll probably break down on the way home now. I've had no problems with it. It starts every morning. It rides. It's never let me down. It's all been tip-top, lovely, beautiful. And that's one of the reasons I keep going back to Honda. I've had, what, 10 Hondas now? 11 Hondas? Maybe 15 Hondas. And I haven't had a problem with any of them. Not one single problem with any Honda that I've ever owned. Every other manufacturer I think I've had a problem with, but this, no. And that's kind of the reason I keep going back to Honda. I like them anyway. I like the look of them. I've always liked the Africatwin ever since the original one, when I used to work in the bike industry. If you know the story, many of you don't, I'll go over it quickly. I used to work in the bike shop, used to run the clothing department in a company called Motorcycle City, and they had an Africatwin in the corner, one of the original ones. I think they were 750s, and I absolutely loved it. I just passed my test at the time and I wanted a big bike. But everyone was into sports bikes at the time, so they convinced me it was a pile of dog shit. I ended up with a Ducati 750 Super Sport. Beautiful bike, loved it. But always wished I'd bought that Africatwin. So when the 1000cc came out, I jumped at the chance. I bought the CRF 1000 when it first came out. Then I bought the one after, the CRF 1100L standard DCT, and now I've bought this. So this is my third Africatwin, and I bloody love them. It's just a shame that the 2024 one is not my cup of tea. I'm sure it's going to sell well, and I'm sure some people out there will like it with a 19-inch front wheel and a lower seat height. But I won't be buying one. That's 100% fact, because I like a tall bike, and unfortunately all bikes are getting smaller now. I know people complain that bikes are too tall, the adventure bikes are too tall, but you have every other genre of bike. Leave the adventure bikes alone. Let us have a tall bike every now and again. In the Honda range, I've got this just about, my CRF Rally, maybe I would say the Transalp, but even that's too small. So my CRF Rally, this Africatwin, maybe the previous generation was better, but that's it. Every other bike is designed for the rest of you. I've got 2 bikes in the whole range, and that goes for most manufacturers. They make bikes for small people. They very rarely make bikes for tall people. So leave us tallies alone and let us have fun as well. But there you go, that's my Africatwin. That's the 11,000/12,000 mile owner's review. Do I like it? Yes, I bloody love it. It's more than like, it's an affair. We're having a love affair. I bloody love this bike. It's the best bike I've owned by a mile. It does everything that I want it to do. All this switch gear here that people complain about, it's easy when you own one. You get used to it and you do it. This thing with the indicators and the hooter the wrong way round that people complain about Honda, not a problem. I've owned loads of bikes with this configuration. It's brilliant. It does not detract you one bit. You don't press the wrong ones ever. I don't know how people do it, because when I get onto other bikes I don't do it the other way around. So it's just nitpicking for the sake of nitpicking. You just get used to things, and this, my friends, is a fantastic bike. Is it the best bike in the world? For me, 100% yes, along with my other bikes of course. But for now, for this video, this one is absolutely fantastic. So there you go, that's the end of this video. Thank you very much for joining me. It's just my opinion and my sort of like owner's review after 12,000 miles of ownership of this bike, the CRF 1100L Adventure Sport DCT. I love it. I bloody love this bike, and the best thing about this bike is I own it, it's mine, it's staying with me, and chances are I'm not going to sell it for the 2024 model. I don't say chances are, I know 100% this is the best Africatwin ever made. Why? Because it's mine and I love it. So that just leaves me to say, don't forget to subscribe, to like, to share, to do all those things that you need to do. Also hit that notification bell so you guys can get a drop in these videos. I shall see you on the next one. You know I love you all. Stay safe. Fish out.
Get all your bags, get out my house. I don't want your stuff around. I never did you wrong, but you did me wrong. So go ahead, get gone. Get all your bags, get out my house. I don't want your stuff around. I never did you wrong, but you did me wrong. So go ahead and get gone.